Caitlin, what makes this debut special for you?
Man, I think, this is every kid's dream. I think I wrote it down when I was in like 3rd grade. So, just excited about this opportunity. And I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but, even I played with Ryan on the, U19 team, like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting in itself and kind of the first step in this journey.
Are you ready? Because Caitlin Clark's Team USA interview covered everything. The injuries that wrecked her 2025 season, what it felt like stepping back into a gym at this level, the veterans she grew up watching who she's now running drills alongside, and the game winner she hit that basically had the whole camp buzzing. And then, almost at the end, she talked about the CBA negotiations in a way that was so calm and so matter-of-fact that it kind of made the Players Association look ridiculous by comparison. What she said was so direct and so simple that it puts the entire Players Association in a really awkward spot. In this video, we'll break down everything that Clark did and said during her amazing Team USA return. Are you excited to see Caitlin finally back in action? Let me know down in the comments below because we're covering all her Team USA games the entire week.
Just remind myself who I am and what I've been, and I didn't lose that, so just continue to do that.
Picture this. Caitlin Clark walks into a Team USA gym, and she's not easing in, not feeling her way around, not treating it like a comeback story. She's just competing, right away, like the past several months didn't happen. But they did happen, and that's the part worth understanding before we get into everything she said in that interview. The 2025 WNBA season was rough for Clark in a way that's hard to watch. She only got into 13 games for the Fever. 13. And it wasn't one big injury that took her out. It was a quad issue, a groin problem, and an ankle that kept flaring up at the worst times. That combination is brutal because none of those things are catastrophic on their own. But together, they just keep stacking up until you can't go anymore.
I've always been a person that's going to just rely on my work. Like, I feel like it's certainly made me work harder, but that's also probably the part that kind of stunk about it is I felt like I put in so much time and so much energy going into last season, and then obviously I only appeared in about 13 games, and some of those probably wasn't as healthy as I probably should have been. So I think just relying on that. I think for me, obviously I didnn't have, it's not like I, hurt my knee or, was in tore my Achilles or something like that. Obviously, knock on wood, it was kind of these nagging injuries that continued to build up and dealt with one on top of the other.
And that's actually what she talked about in the interview, the nagging nature of it. She said the injuries weren't the kind where you get hurt and you're done for a while. They were the kind where every single day you wake up thinking maybe today is the day. Maybe today I can push through this, and then you can't, and then you do it again the next day. That cycle is genuinely exhausting, and she's honest about it.
I think that was probably almost, played with my mind even more than knowing I was going to be out for a set period of time. I was always trying to come back, and then I'd get hurt in another way. And then, finally, obviously shutting it down. I've had a good, 6 months or maybe more. And I think the first USA basketball camp was a great checkpoint for me, and I felt really great. Honestly, I was impressed with how with it I felt. Sometimes I felt like it maybe would take me a day or two to really get my first step back, but I felt like myself out there. So
here's where it gets interesting though. She doesn't just talk about the physical side. She goes into the mental grind of sitting out, watching from the sideline when your team is out there competing and you can't do anything about it. She said that messes with your head in a different way than the physical pain does. Because at least with physical pain, you understand why you're not playing. The mental part is harder to manage. You're still locked in, still watching film, still in the building every day, but you're not actually playing basketball. For someone like Clark, who's been competing at a high level basically her entire life, that's a really uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I played a game. And obviously I played in the camp we had in December, and then, doing everything I can to simulate as much live play. in training and pickup and things like that, but nothing will quite emulate this type of environment. So I think it'll probably take me a second to knock a little bit of the rust off. I'll probably be a little bit nervous, which I usually don't get nervous, but that probably just will come from, I haven't really played basketball in a while. So I'm sure like after the first minute of running around on the court, I'll be just fine.
So what she said next is the part that actually matters. She said she feels better right now than she did at the start of last season. Not just back to normal. Better. That's a big thing to say after going through what she went through. But the way she frames it makes sense. She talks about how she approached the off-season differently. More intentional about what she was working on, more focused on the right things, instead of just putting in hours for the sake of it. She's not just grinding blindly. She's doing targeted work, and she can feel the difference.
But more than anything, just really excited. I know how much work and how much time I've put in to make sure my body's as healthy as it can be, and to get back not only to a point where I feel like I'm myself, but I feel like I'm even better than, where I was at the beginning of last season. And I started off the season really well before I was hurt and tried to play through being hurt. So more than anything, just excited to be out there, be surrounded by a lot of really good players, and, do whatever I can to help us win.
And that's the thing about the interview overall. She's not in there selling you something. There's no performance going on. She's just sitting there talking about what happened, what she did about it, and how she feels now. And it lands because it's so straightforward. You believe her. She's not trying to hype herself up. She's just telling you where she's at. And where she's at right now is a Team USA training camp, running drills against gold medalists and doing things like hitting game winners when it matters. Here's where it gets interesting. During one of the practice drills at camp, Clark hits a game winner, just steps up and buries it. And the way she talks about that moment in the interview isn't, "I'm back, I'm healthy, I'm the best player in the world." It's more like she's just happy to be in that situation again, taking a big shot in a competitive setting with real players around her. That reaction tells you a lot about where her head is right now. Let's talk about what this camp actually is, because it's not a casual tune-up. Team USA is preparing for the FIBA qualifiers, and the schedule is brutal, 5 games in 7 days. So the training camp isn't designed to ease anyone in gently. The pace is fast, the competition on both sides of every drill is legitimate, and you've got gold medalists running through reps next to you every single day. You can't replicate that in a regular fever practice. There's just no equivalent. And Clark admits in the interview that she can feel the rust. She's honest about that. She says there's a nervousness to it, a shakiness that comes from not having played at this level in a while. But here's the thing. She doesn't say that like it's a problem. She says it like it's the point, because this camp is exactly the kind of environment where you find out where you actually are. You can't hide anything at this level. Whatever's there is going to show up, and whatever's not there is going to show up too. So for her, the camp is a real checkpoint, not a scheduled appearance.
Continuing to focus on my body and make sure I'm as healthy as possible. I think kind of in the build up to that first USA camp and working through that, you would feel little things, and whether, it's just soreness and having to work through that. But when you've dealt with so many little soft tissue injuries, like, you can kind of get in your head a little bit. And I think at least past couple months, I've really kind of put that behind me and really just feel confident in what I've been able to build and where my body's at, and more than anything, where my game's at. And I know I've put in as much time as I can, truly. Like, I've been in the gym and
That game winner moment fits right into that. Picture this. You've been out for months, you're feeling the rust, you're in a gym full of elite players, and the ball ends up in your hands at the end of a drill with the game on the line. What do? Clark doesn't hesitate. She's not looking to pass it off, not thinking about easing back in carefully. She takes the shot, makes it. And that's the Caitlin Clark that Fever fans have been missing since last season. Not tentative, not cautious, just locked in and ready to go.
How are you the passer? How? No.
Then she gets into the veterans in camp, and this part of the interview is genuinely great. She talks about Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and it's not just a list of names. She actually talks about watching them. Not just during drills, but between reps. How they communicate, how they move without the ball, what they do in the little moments that don't show up in a box score. She's paying attention to the details, and that's the kind of thing that separates good players from players who keep getting better every year.
Yeah, I mean, like my favorite Olympians growing up, definitely Maya Moore, Suber, Diana Taurasi. Those are probably my three favorite. But I mean, you can go down the list and name probably a bunch more. And even on the men's side, like I loved watching the men's teams as well growing up.
And then she opens up about her basketball idols. The players she grew up watching, the ones she had posters of, the ones she studied. She doesn't just mention them and move on. She acknowledges what it actually feels like to now be in a gym running drills next to some of those people. And she says it in this really genuine way, not like a fan freaking out, but like someone who understands how rare that situation is and doesn't want to take it for granted. There's a maturity to how she talks about it that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention.
I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but even I played with Ryan on the U19 team, like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting in itself and kind of the first step in this journey.
But that's not all. The Paige-Beckers pairing is something Clark is clearly excited about too. She talks about figuring out how they fit together, how their games connect, what they can do when they're both on the floor at the same time. And honestly, the potential there is ridiculous. Two of the best guards in the game right now, both at the peak of their focus, building chemistry in a Team USA camp. Clark says she's been working on understanding how Beckers moves, what she likes, where she wants the ball, and Beckers is doing the same thing back. That kind of mutual investment in chemistry doesn't happen automatically. Both players have to actually want it, and they clearly do. So what you're getting from this interview is not a player who's relieved to just be back on a court. It's a player who's engaged, curious, competitive, and genuinely having a good time. There's real joy in how she talks about all of it. Not the kind of joy that comes from surviving something hard, but the kind that comes from being exactly where you want to be and knowing it. That's the version of Caitlin Clark who makes the Fever a different team in 2026. Not just because she's healthy, but because she's locked in at a level that's hard to match.
I'm really thankful for the Fever medical staff, player development, and a lot of other people that have helped me behind the scenes to be able to get back to this. Like, it wasn't just me. Like, there's a lot of people that were very, very selfless in helping me do this. So I'm just thankful for them, but a lot of live play more than anything. It's the best way to get back into game shape and, try to emulate certain things the best you can.
She hits game winners in practice. She's studying the best players in the world in real time. She's building one of the most exciting backcourt partnerships in Team USA history. And she's doing all of it while something messy and frustrating is playing out off the court. So near the end of the interview, Clark gets asked about the CBA negotiations. And what she says is so calm and so simple that it almost makes you laugh. Because the whole situation has gotten so drawn out and so messy, and then Clark just cuts through all of it in basically one sentence. She says she doesn't understand why everyone doesn't just get in a room, iron it out, and shake hands. That's it. That's her whole take. And honestly, she's right. Let's talk about what's actually been going on here. The CBA had a soft deadline of March 10th. That came and went. Free agency got frozen. The WNBA put a moratorium on the table to pause everything while talks kept going. And the Players Association is pushing for a 30% revenue share and a much bigger salary cap. Those are the broad strokes. Nothing has gotten resolved. The season is sitting there waiting while people argue in public instead of just sitting down together and working it out.
I remember one of my best memories as a young basketball player was when I was I think this was my first time playing on the U16 team. And we were in Colorado Springs and we got to see this room. I don't know if I should be saying this. I feel like it's fine, but we got to see this room where they kept jerseys of all their best players, or a jersey from each player. Maybe I can't remember the exact specifics, but they had jerseys dating back years and years and years. And I remember as a kid, I was like, my eyes were just so wide. Like, I thought this was like the coolest thing in the world. Like,
Here's where it gets interesting, though. Because the loudest voices on the Players Association side are Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. And those two aren't just players. They're the co-founders of Unrivaled, which is a competing league that runs during the WNBA offseason. So think about that for a second. The people controlling the pace of these CBA negotiations also own a product that does better when the WNBA has a messy offseason. When free agency is frozen and the season start is uncertain, players have more reason to stay plugged into Unrivaled. That's just the reality of what's sitting there. Let's talk about that conflict of interest plainly. You have PA leadership with a financial stake in a competing league, and they're the ones deciding how fast or slow these negotiations move. They're the ones choosing what to push for publicly and what to drag out. That's a real problem, and fans are noticing it. The backlash online is getting loud. People are connecting those dots, and they're not being subtle about it. Comments, posts, threads, all pointing at the same thing. The people running these negotiations have reasons to let them go slowly, and the players who actually need a clean 2026 season are the ones paying for it.
my first time playing on the U16 team, like, the amount of people that make it from the U16 team to eventually get to make their debut on the national team is a very, very, very small number. So getting to play in just this World Cup qualifier obviously is a huge honor within itself. And, I know getting to put on the jersey will be super special. And, these are the teams I watched growing up. My favorite players played on these teams. So everybody knows what an honor it is to wear USA across your chest. And, obviously there's quite a few more steps to reaching the Olympics. And you have a lot till we get to that point, but obviously that's certainly my goal, and obviously the World Cup before that.
Meanwhile, Clark is at Team USA camp, working, preparing, building chemistry with Paige Beckers, hitting game winners in drills. And when someone asks her about the CBA, she doesn't launch into a political statement or take sides in a complicated way. She just says, get in a room and shake hands. It's so straightforward that it makes the whole stalemate look even more unnecessary than it already did. Breanna Stewart actually said publicly that she'd sit in a room for hours to get a deal done. And sure, that sounds committed, but it's hard to hear that without thinking about Unrivaled sitting in the background. Saying you'll put in the hours is one thing. Actually, having a clean incentive to finish the deal fast is another thing entirely. And this CBA mess isn't happening in a vacuum either. It's part of a much longer pattern of how the old guard in this league has been operating for the past 2 years. Here's something that doesn't get said plainly enough. Since the day Clark got drafted, a chunk of the WNBA's veteran leadership has been working to minimize her impact on the league. Not subtly either. Pretty openly. And it's been going on for 2 full years now.
That's the worst part of all this, is the new fans are sucking the f***ing life out of the WNBA right now. It's just the truth. You are right. You are right, new fans. There has never been more viewership because of Caitlin Clark. There's never been more attention. They're doing 40 minutes on First Take about Caitlin Clark. They never did that before, as Monica McNutt called out. You're right. But you know what there was in the WNBA last year and the years prior? There was other storylines. There was joy. There was talk of competition. There was talk of what was actually happening on the court.
Let's talk about the new fans thing first, because that was one of the ugliest parts of this whole situation. When Clark came into the league, she brought a massive wave of new fans with her. People who had never watched a WNBA game before were suddenly buying tickets, tuning into broadcasts, and buying her jersey. And instead of welcoming those people, parts of the old guard spent energy lecturing them, telling them they needed to respect the league's history, treating them like they didn't belong. Picture this. Your league is finally getting the mainstream attention it has wanted for decades, and your response is to police who deserves to be in the building. That actually happened, and the numbers don't lie. Attendance went up, ratings went up, jersey sales went up. All of that happened because of exactly those new fans the old guard was busy pushing away. So the irony is pretty thick there. Then there's the on-court stuff. The physicality directed at Clark went beyond normal competitive play. Flagrant fouls that didn't get called the way they should have. Situations where it genuinely felt like certain players were more focused on sending a message than actually playing basketball. And this wasn't a one-game thing. It was a pattern that showed up consistently across 2 seasons.
I see are the B's that are being dramatic about Caitlin Clark. That's all I see. They try so long to get respect for women's basketball, and then they treat it like a junior high school girl's locker room. Junior high school girl antics on the court.
But that's not all. Now those same veteran players, through the Players Association, are sitting on a CBA that would directly benefit Clark, Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, and every other younger player who is actually driving the league's revenue right now. The people who grew the league's money are the ones getting hurt most by this stalemate. And the people stalling the negotiations are the ones with a competing league sitting in their back pocket. Here's where it gets interesting. Fans are asking whose future the PA is actually negotiating for. Because when you look at who has financial stakes in Unrivaled, and then you look at how slowly these talks are moving, the answer gets uncomfortable fast. People online are not being quiet about this. The backlash is real, and it keeps growing because the dots are just too easy to connect.
Now, what little girl wants to grow up and play in a league where you're targeted like that? How do you sit here and profess and demand that everyone take women's sports seriously when you can't even take it seriously enough to not act like a junior high queen on the court? It's stupid. That's so dumb. It looks like a soap opera.
And through all of it, Clark just keeps showing up. Team USA camp, fever practice, every interview. She's not making it about anyone else. She's not taking shots at the union or calling anyone out by name. She just does the work and talks about basketball, and somehow that makes everything the old guard is doing look even worse by comparison. So here's the payoff. 2 years of trying to push Clark to the margins has done the exact opposite. She is the center of every conversation about this league's future. The Fever go into 2026 with Clark healthy, a roster built around her, and TNT broadcasting rights making sure the whole country watches every single game she plays. So Clark went to Team USA camp, hit a game winner in practice, talked honestly about grinding through a brutal injury year, and then summed up the entire CBA mess in basically 2 sentences. And the Fever's 2026 season hasn't even started yet. The Players Association can keep stalling. The old guard can keep protecting whatever leverage they think they have. But Clark is just going to keep showing up and making it impossible to look anywhere else. And if you're a Fever fan, that's exactly the energy you want right now. Are you excited to see Caitlin finally back in action? Let me know down in the comments below because we're covering all her Team USA games the entire week. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.